This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
Where we want to educate you about our market, empower you to make wise decisions, and help you engage with our expert contributors.
Rick, today I want to talk a little bit about the process because, you know, in our lifetime, most of us, other those of us involved in the business, only go through this process of escrow a few times in our life. How long does it take you to close a deal? How long does it take us to close a deal these days?
So there's a lot of factors that come into play on that. But first off, the contract will tell us how long we have to close the deal. But we can close transactions as early as 2 days.
Wow.
And as without an HOA on the property.
Right.
If you're living in a community with an HOA, it takes a little bit longer.
Right.
And I'll talk about that regarding documentation that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes about 10 days to get. The process starts with an executed contract. The contract comes from the realtors, signed by the buyer and the seller, and it is usually emailed over to us or opened online or dropped off at our office. Any way that we get the contract, it doesn't matter to us. The first thing that typically happens is we enter the information into our system. We then do a little quick research, is what I call, make sure the property is actually a property. We do an aerial search that's built into our system. And then we are entering just information, the buyer's information, seller's information. And that's where things really, people need to understand why we ask for certain things.
You want to make sure the seller actually owns the home.
Correct.
First.
Correct. So title's doing that in the background.
Right.
And they're vetting out the seller as well as who's supposed to sign. And we're technically preparing the buyer and the lender to move forward to close the transaction. So first step, and this will tie into our topic later, wire fraud, is our earnest money deposit.
Right.
So we will pick up the phone, call the buyer. We will verify their email address with them. We will introduce ourselves first, so they're not getting a stranger calling them asking for their email address. And at that point, we will send them a secured email that they will be able to retrieve the wiring instructions from our portal. So the earnest money deposit can be wired to us, and now we have a fully executed contract that has the first terms of that contract met. From that point, what we do from the escrow side is we gather information. The sole purpose of escrow, and just to kind of throw that definition out there, is we are a third neutral party who acts on behalf of the buyer, seller, lender, listing agent, and selling agent.
Right.
And we do so all in writing. And at that point, what we are doing is we're verifying all the fees, all the charges. Some of the charges, like I said, we're a third neutral party, and there's 5 parties to this transaction. The lender, if you're having a loan on this property, the lender is going to give us what's called lender instructions, and we're going to follow those. And they could be charge the buyer X amount of dollars as an origination fee, or please hold X amount of dollars in taxes. All that is doing is telling us how much money we're going to put on the grand document of the settlement statement, and that's the one that tells us what we need and what you need as a buyer or seller. It's kind of the holy grail of the documents from the escrow side.
Right.
Is the settlement statement. Once we have the information, we are preparing what we call a disclosure package, very similar to what the lender is giving out, except it's documents that protect us as a title company, also protect the buyer and seller against each other. It outlines what we do. So we've gathered the information, we've generated the documents, and that goes into our closing folders ready for signature. Mm-hmm. That also generates at that time, like I was talking earlier, the settlement statement. Settlement statement outlines all the charges to everybody. Most of the charges are up front. So like when I say that, I mean is they're on the contract. So the contract covers about 50% of the charges. The other 35% of the charges are from the lender. So they're all pretty much disclosed. The ones that come into question sometimes are prorations. And a proration is simply giving money back to somebody because they've prepaid it.
Taxes, for instance, HOA fees.
100%, yes.
Sewer fees, things of that nature might be prorated.
Those are the 3 big ones.
You've been listening to Las Vegas Real Estate Now. If you ever have a question about real estate or any of the other topics we cover, just call me off air or text me at 702-203-1165. You can also check us out on the web at lvrealestateradio.com or on our handle on social media at LV Real Estate Radio. We'll meet you on the radio next Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on the new 101.5 FM 720 AM KDWN, the Talk of Las Vegas.